My parents canceled my 18th birthday party last minute because my golden child sister threw a fit about her trip being canceled. Okay, so I just turned 18 last week, and what was supposed to be like a big deal for me turned into a disaster. You'd think turning 18 would be a huge thing, right? But nah, my parents ruined the whole thing. They canceled my party at the very last minute, and the reason? My spoiled, selfish older sister threw a fit. Honestly, the party was supposed to be all about me. I mean, 18 is a big deal, but nope, she just had to make it about herself like she always does. Here's the thing, she wasn't even supposed to be home. She had this big trip planned with her friends to New York, and I was low-key excited that she'd be gone during my birthday. It was going to be the first time in years that I could have something without her stealing the spotlight. But of course, because I can't have nice things, there was a massive storm in the Midwest that screwed up all the flights. Her trip got canceled, and now I'm stuck with her at home on my birthday. So, it's the morning of my birthday. I'm pretty hyped, thinking it's finally going to be my day, right? But then, my sister wakes up in one of her moods. She's upset about the trip getting canceled. And when I say upset, I mean she's acting like the world is ending. I tried to ignore her and focus on getting ready, but my parents were all over her, babying her like she's some delicate little flower. And this is where it gets messed up. Out of nowhere, she says to my parents, "If I can't go to New York and have fun, then nobody should." I swear I thought she was joking. Like, who says that? But my parents didn't even blink. They just nodded and were like, "You're right. It wouldn't be fair to have a party when she's so upset." I was standing there like, what? How the hell is her trip getting canceled my fault? They didn't even have the decency to tell me right away. I only found out hours later when it was already evening, and no one had shown up yet. I was sitting there fully dressed, waiting for my friends to come over, and then I'm like, wait, why hasn't anyone arrived? So I asked my mom what was going on, and that's when she casually drops the bomb that they canceled the party because my sister was too upset to deal with it. They didn't even think to ask me. They just made the decision like my birthday didn't matter at all. I lost it. Like full-on screaming, angry tears type of lost it. This wasn't just about the party being canceled, you know? It was about everything. For as long as I can remember, I've been pushed aside for my sister. I'm always the one who has to adjust, compromise, and let her have whatever she wants. They've been doing this my whole life, and I've always just put up with it because, I don't know, that's what I was used to. But this, canceling my 18th birthday party because she's whining about not going on some stupid trip, that was just too much. I started yelling at them, and you know what they did? They told me to quiet down because they didn't want to wake up my sister from her nap. Can you believe that? I'm furious. My entire birthday is ruined, and they're more worried about my sister getting her beauty sleep. Right in the middle of this mess, the doorbell rings. My parents didn't invite anyone, so they were confused. They open the door, and it's my grandpa. Now, my grandpa's not just some regular grandpa. He's the kind of guy who commands respect. Everyone in the family listens to him, even my parents. He's old school, strict, but fair. And honestly, he's one of the few people I actually trust in the family. So he walks in and immediately sees that something's wrong. He hears me still yelling, sees my parents looking like they've been caught doing something shady, and he's like, "What's going on here?" My parents tried to brush it off like it was nothing, but Grandpa wasn't buying it. He turns to me, and I just unloaded everything. I told him about how my sister's always been the golden child, how they canceled my birthday without even telling me, how they always put her first no matter what. I wasn't holding back. I was tired of keeping quiet about it. My grandpa was pissed, like visibly angry. I've never seen him so mad. He turns to my dad and says, "Is this true?" My dad tries to downplay it, saying, "Oh well, she was upset, and we thought it would be best to keep things quiet." But Grandpa wasn't having it. He snapped and started going off on them. He said they've been coddling my sister her whole life and ignoring me, and that it was disgusting how they treated me. And then he drops the real shocker. Turns out, for the past few years, my grandpa has been the one supporting our family financially. My parents have been struggling to keep their business afloat, and Grandpa's been sending them money every month to help out. So this party they canceled, Grandpa paid for it. The whole time, I thought my parents were doing something nice for me, but nope, it was all thanks to Grandpa. He went off on my parents even harder after that. He said they were ungrateful, and that if they couldn't even treat their own daughter right, they didn't deserve his help. Then in front of everyone, he tells them that he's done. No more money, they're cut off. And then he turns to me and says, "Pack your bags, you're coming with me." I didn't even think twice. I ran upstairs, grabbed whatever I could, and left with him. My parents tried to stop me, saying things like, "Oh, don't be so dramatic, and we can fix this." But I was done. Grandpa didn't even look back at them. We got in his car, and as we drove away, he apologized to me. He said he should have stepped in sooner, and that he didn't realize how bad things had gotten. I didn't even know what to say. I was just grateful to be out of there. Now I'm staying at my grandpa's house, and honestly, it's the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. My parents have been texting me nonstop, trying to get me to come back, but I'm not going to. I'm done with them. They only care about my sister, and now that grandpa's cut them off, they're probably more worried about the money than they are about me. It's messed up, but at least now I know where I stand with them. All right, so after I moved in with my grandpa, things started to get, well, kind of weird. You know how when you finally take a stand against something, and then everyone around you starts acting all different, like they don't know how to handle it? That's exactly what happened with my parents. The minute I walked out, they went into panic mode. But not in the "we care about you" way. It was more like they realized they'd messed up and were trying to fix it just to save face. First off, they didn't even wait 24 hours before texting me. My phone was blowing up the next morning. At first it was all, "We're sorry, we didn't think," and "Your sister was just so upset we didn't realize how it'd affect you." Yeah, right. Like they didn't know that canceling my 18th birthday party without telling me would piss me off. It was like they were scrambling for excuses, but none of them made sense. They kept saying stuff like, "We always thought you were strong enough to handle it," and "Your sister just needs more attention sometimes, you know how she is." I mean, come on. They were seriously trying to play it like I should be proud of being ignored because it meant they thought I was strong? That's some next level manipulation if you ask me. But then they dropped this wild excuse that actually made me laugh. My mom sent this long text about how my sister's more fragile and how she's always been the one who needs more emotional support. Like, where was this coming from? My sister's 23 years old. She's been out of college for 2 years and has a job. If anything, she should be the one handling her emotions like an adult, not me. At that point, I wasn't even mad anymore. It was just sad. They were clearly grasping at straws, trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. But I didn't bite. I just ignored the text and didn't respond. I figured they'd get the hint eventually, right? Wrong. 2 days later, my dad sent me a message. He basically begged me to come home and talk things out. I hadn't responded to anything by then, and I think it was really freaking them out. He said that they wanted to apologize in person and make things right. But here's the thing. I didn't believe them for a second. They didn't care about making things right with me. They were just scared about Grandpa cutting them off financially, and they wanted me to go back so they could get back in his good graces. I thought about it for a while, though. I'll admit, part of me wanted to see if they'd actually follow through with any of this fake apology stuff. So I decided to test them. I sent a message back to my dad, and this is where things got interesting. I told him straight up, "I'll come back home and talk to Grandpa about keeping the financial support going, but only if you kick my sister out of the house." Now, I wasn't really expecting them to do it. I mean, they'd never pick me over her, but I just wanted to see how far they'd go to get me back. The reply I got was hilarious. My dad sent this long, dramatic message about how I was being unreasonable and heartless. He said that my sister has nowhere else to go, and that it wasn't fair of me to ask them to choose between their 2 daughters. I almost choked laughing at that. Choose between us? They'd already chosen. They chose my sister every single time for my entire life. I didn't even bother responding to that one either. It was pretty clear where I stood. My parents were never going to see me as anything but second best. So I let it go, figuring they'd eventually stop messaging me. But nope, they didn't give up that easily. A few days later, I was leaving school with my friend, the football player I mentioned last chapter. He's been my rock through all this. And I see my sister standing outside waiting for me. And listen, when I tell you I got a bad feeling about it, I mean it. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't even trying to act nice. She just stood there, glaring at me like I was the enemy. I was honestly creeped out, so I asked my friend to walk me home. He's a big guy, and I knew if she tried to pull anything, he'd be there to step in. We've known each other for years, and he knows all about my family drama, so he was cool with walking me back. As we started heading home, my sister started following us. Silently. No yelling, no calling my name. Just walking a few steps behind us like some kind of creepy stalker. At first I tried to ignore her, but after a few blocks it got way too weird. I stopped, turned around, and straight up asked her what she wanted. She said, "I'm not talking to you in front of him." Like, okay, sure, that's not suspicious at all, right? I told her if she had something to say, she could say it now. But I wasn't going to go off alone with her. No way. I didn't trust her one bit. That's when she launched into this whole thing about how I was destroying our family. She said our parents were stressed because of me, and that they'd told her about the condition I'd set, that I'd only come back if she moved out. She was pissed. She called me unfair and selfish and said that I was ruining her life. All I could do was laugh at how ridiculous it sounded. Like, really? I'm ruining her life? I told her, if I can't be happy, then neither can you. I know it was petty, but that's the exact same reasoning she used to cancel my birthday party. So I figured it was only fair. I turned around to keep walking, and that's when she snapped. Before I knew it, she lunged at me and shoved me to the ground. I didn't even have time to react. 1 second I was standing there, and the next, I was on the pavement with her on my back, screaming in my ear. But my friend, bless him, was quick. He grabbed her by the arm and literally lifted her off me like she was nothing. The guy's got muscles for days, so he wasn't even breaking a sweat. When I got up, I was furious. I walked right up to her, slapped her hard across the face, and told her that if she ever touched me again, I'd call the cops. I was done playing nice. She looked stunned, like she couldn't believe I'd actually hit her, but she didn't try to come at me again, probably because she knew my friend would stop her. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. I just turned around and walked away with my friend. When I got home, I told my grandpa what happened, and he was ready to call the cops right then and there, but I told him it wasn't worth it. My sister's a mess, and honestly, I felt like she'd already dug her own grave with our parents. I didn't need to do anything more, but man, slapping her felt good. Real good. It was a long time coming. So, after the whole mess with my sister attacking me, I thought things might finally calm down. But nah, that's not how things work in my family. Instead, things just kept getting weirder. My parents didn't call or text me for a few days after that, and I figured they had finally given up. But then, I got hit with something completely unexpected. A phone call from my grandpa, and this time, it was him dropping a bomb on me. Wait, I know I said no more bombs, but you get what I mean, right? He starts the conversation super serious, saying he needs to talk to me about some stuff I didn't know. I thought maybe he was going to talk about money or something, maybe explain why my parents are so screwed up when it comes to my sister and me. But no, it was way bigger than that. So, he tells me the reason my parents have always treated me like crap. Apparently, they never even wanted me in the first place. Yeah, you read that right. I was literally an unwanted kid. My mom and dad had only planned on having one child, my sister. She was their perfect daughter, and they were happy with just her. Then, 5 years after she was born, my mom got pregnant with me by accident. At first, they planned to have an abortion. They weren't ready for another kid, and they didn't want their perfect little family of 3 to change. But then my dad made the mistake of telling my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, about the pregnancy. And they were old school, super traditional people. They were totally against abortion, so they convinced my parents to keep me. But here's where it gets even worse. When my mom was 8 months pregnant, my grandparents got into this horrible car accident, and both of them died. My grandpa explained that my mom blamed me for the accident. She started saying it was because of me that her parents were gone, like I was some kind of curse. She had a total breakdown, like full-on psychotic episode while she was pregnant. She had to be institutionalized for a few weeks to get her head right. By the time she came back, she was better. But she still had these feelings deep down. It didn't help that my dad felt the same way, like having me was some kind of punishment they didn't deserve. They were ready to give me up for adoption as soon as I was born. But here's where my paternal grandparents stepped in. My dad's parents refused to let them do it. They thought it was ridiculous, and told my parents that they had to raise me, whether they liked it or not. So yeah, they didn't want me, but they had no choice. And that's why they've always treated me like I'm the extra kid who wasn't supposed to be here. I sat there on the phone just trying to process all of this, like everything suddenly made sense. Why I was always second place to my sister, why they never seemed to care about me the same way, and why I always felt like I didn't belong. I mean, they didn't want me, so of course they treated me like I didn't matter. I asked my grandpa why he never told me this before. He sighed and said he didn't want to burden me with the truth when I was younger, especially since I was just a kid. He thought maybe things would change, that my parents would come around and see me as their daughter, but obviously that never happened. Hearing this from my grandpa was both a relief and a punch to the gut. It explained so much, but it also made me realize that no matter what I did, I was never going to be enough for them. I was never going to be the kid they wanted because they didn't want me at all. I didn't even know what to say after that. I just kind of sat there in silence, trying to absorb it all. My grandpa must have realized how much it was hitting me, because he told me that I was better off with him now. He said he should have taken me away from them a long time ago, but he didn't want to stir up trouble back then. I could tell he regretted not stepping in sooner, but at least now I knew the truth. After I hung up with my grandpa, I just sat there for a while, thinking about how messed up everything really was. Like, what do you even do with that kind of information? My parents literally saw me as some kind of mistake, And all this time I'd been fighting for their approval, hoping one day they'd see me the same way they saw my sister. But now I knew that was never going to happen. They couldn't, because to them, I was always going to be the kid that wasn't supposed to exist. I didn't tell my grandpa this, but after hearing all of that, I knew for sure I was never going back home. There was no way. Even if they did kick my sister out like I jokingly asked, it wouldn't change anything. I wasn't some kid they cared about losing. I was just a problem they didn't want to deal with. That night, I got another text from my dad. It was long, trying to convince me to come home and saying that they realized they'd made mistakes and that they wanted to make things right. I almost threw my phone when I read it. How can you make something right when the whole foundation is screwed up? They didn't want me from the start, and nothing they said now would change that. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What was the point? They'd just lie or give me some half-assed excuse. It wasn't even about me for them. They were still trying to save face, trying to patch things up with Grandpa so the money would keep coming. And honestly, I wasn't going to be their pawn in that game anymore. I went downstairs that night and talked to my grandpa face to face. I told him everything I'd been feeling since we had that phone call, how I finally understood why things were the way they were, and how I didn't think I could ever forgive my parents for treating me like this. He listened, like he always does, and when I was done, he gave me this look, like he understood completely. He told me that I didn't owe my parents anything, that I should focus on myself, on my future, and not waste time trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. That's when I made the decision. I was never going back. My parents could keep texting, keep apologizing, keep making excuses, but I was done with them. All right, so after I found out the truth about why my parents never wanted me, I thought things couldn't get any worse. Like, that was pretty much rock bottom, right? Turns out I was wrong. Things took a whole new turn with my sister, and honestly, I should have seen it coming, but somehow it still caught me off guard. So about a week after my grandpa told me the whole story, I hadn't heard much from my parents. They texted me a few times saying the same old stuff, trying to act like they cared about me, but I didn't respond. I was done with their crap, and honestly, I was more focused on just trying to move on with my life. But my sister? She wasn't going to let things go that easily. One afternoon, I was chilling at Grandpa's place, just trying to relax after school. I had some homework to do, but I wasn't really feeling it, so I was just scrolling through my phone. Out of nowhere, my phone buzzes, and it's a message from my sister. Now, I hadn't heard from her since the whole fight in the street when she tried to tackle me. So seeing her name pop up was a surprise. I opened the message, and it was a whole essay. She started by saying how messed up it was that I was making her out to be the bad guy. Like, she was seriously trying to act like she was the victim in all of this. She said that our parents were super stressed because of me, and that it was unfair how I left without talking things out. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Then she goes on to say that I need to stop being selfish and come home so we can fix things as a family. She actually used the word selfish, like I hadn't spent my entire life getting pushed aside so she could have whatever she wanted. The audacity of her trying to guilt trip me after everything was almost laughable. But the part that really pissed me off was when she said, "You've always been jealous of me, and I get it, but you need to grow up and stop acting like a brat." I nearly threw my phone across the room. Jealous? Jealous of her? The girl who had everything handed to her while I was treated like an afterthought? I wasn't jealous. I was tired. Tired of being treated like crap and then being blamed for everything. I didn't respond to her message. I didn't need to. I wasn't going to get dragged into another pointless argument with her. But the next day, things escalated, and it got way more real than I expected. After school, I was heading back to Grandpa's house. And as I walked up to the front door, I saw my sister standing there, just standing, waiting for me. I almost turned around and left right then and there, but I didn't want her to think I was scared or something. So I walked up to her and asked, "What do you want?" She didn't even look mad at first, which threw me off. Instead, she looked desperate, like something was seriously wrong. I figured she was about to try and manipulate me into coming back home, so I was already on guard. But what she said next was not what I expected at all. She told me that our parents had finally told her everything. They told her about how they never wanted me, how they only planned on having one kid, and how I was some unwanted mistake. And for the first time in, well, ever, she actually looked guilty. She said she didn't know things were that bad and that if she had known, she would have acted differently. I didn't believe her. I couldn't. My sister had spent our entire lives lording over me, being the golden child, and taking advantage of every little bit of favoritism she could. Now she was standing there, acting like she suddenly cared? Nah, it didn't sit right with me. I told her straight up, "You've known for years that they treated me differently, and you never cared. You just loved being the favorite. Don't act like you're sorry now that it's too late." I wasn't trying to be mean, but I also wasn't about to let her rewrite history like she'd been this innocent bystander. That's when she broke down. I mean, full-on sobbing, right there on the front porch. I didn't know what to do. My sister never cries. At least not like that. She just kept saying, I didn't know, over and over again. I was honestly in shock. I stood there awkwardly, waiting for her to stop, but it just kept going. Finally, I managed to ask, "What do you want from me? Why are you here?" She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "I want you to come home. I don't want to do this without you." That threw me off. Do what without me? What was she talking about? I asked her what she meant, and she said that ever since I left, things had gotten worse at home. Our parents were fighting constantly, the house felt empty, and she didn't know how to handle it. She said it was like everything was falling apart, and she needed me to come back and make things better. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything she put me through, now she was asking me to fix things? I didn't even know what to say at first. Part of me wanted to yell at her, tell her she was crazy for thinking I'd go back after all this. But another part of me just felt sad. Sad that she didn't get it. Sad that she thought I could magically fix a family that was broken way before I left. I took a deep breath and told her the truth. I'm not coming back. I can't. This isn't something I can fix. Our parents are messed up and you know that. You just didn't care before because it didn't affect you. She tried to argue, saying that things could change if we worked together, but I wasn't buying it. I told her that I wasn't going to be the scapegoat anymore, that I wasn't going to go back to a house where I was never wanted. I told her she needed to stop blaming me for the mess our parents created. She didn't take it well. She started yelling, saying that I was being selfish, that I was abandoning her. It was the same old stuff she'd been saying for years, just with more tears this time. But I didn't budge. I wasn't going to let her guilt me into going back to that toxic environment. Eventually, she realized I wasn't going to change my mind, and she stormed off. I watched her walk down the street still crying, and for a second, I felt a little bad. But then I reminded myself that this was her problem to deal with now. I wasn't going to let her drag me back into that mess. That night, I told my grandpa what happened, and he just nodded, like he knew this was coming. He didn't say much, but I could tell he was proud of me for standing my ground. I was proud of myself too. For the first time in my life, I wasn't letting my sister or my parents control me. I was finally free. All right, so after that whole thing with my sister breaking down on my grandpa's front porch, I thought, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe she finally got the message. I mean, how many times can one person beg and cry before they get that someone just isn't coming back? But I guess in my family, they don't know how to quit because things got even crazier after that. For a few days, it was quiet. No messages from my parents, no surprise visits from my sister. Honestly, it was kind of peaceful. I started getting used to living at my grandpa's house, feeling like things were starting to turn around. I didn't have to deal with my parents' constant favoritism or my sister's tantrums. For once, I could just breathe, you know? But of course, that didn't last long. About a week after my sister's meltdown, I got another text from my dad. Now, by this point, I had pretty much written them off. I knew they weren't going to change, and I was done with the whole situation. But this text? This one caught me off guard because it wasn't the same "come home, we can fix this" crap they'd been saying before. Instead, it was more like, "We've made a decision." My dad said that after a lot of thought, they were going to let my sister keep living with them because, in his words, she's family, and we can't turn our backs on her. He followed that up with, "Since you've made it clear you don't want to come home, we're not going to push anymore." And here's the kicker. Sorry, had to use it this one time. He basically admitted they only wanted me back because of Grandpa's financial support. He didn't even try to sugarcoat it. He said something like, "We thought maybe if you came home, we could talk to your grandpa and figure things out. But now that you're staying with him, we're going to move forward without you." It was wild. Like, they didn't even care about mending the relationship. They straight up said they were done because they didn't need Grandpa's money anymore. Apparently my mom's brother, who I barely even know, decided to step in and help them out with their business. So now they didn't need me or Grandpa's support. I read that text about 5 times just to make sure I wasn't missing something. But nope, that was it. They were basically like, "Okay, we're done with you. Don't bother coming back." And you know what? I was fine with it. More than fine, actually. If they thought cutting ties was going to hurt me, they were dead wrong. I'd already made peace with the fact that they never really cared about me, so this was just them confirming what I already knew. But then, because my family can never just leave things alone. My mom texted me later that day with a whole new level of crazy. She started off by trying to guilt trip me, saying things like, "We did everything for you. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us?" You know, typical parent stuff where they act like doing the bare minimum for your child is some huge favor that you should be eternally grateful for. She even tried to spin it like I was the one abandoning them, like I was being ungrateful for everything they'd done. She didn't mention all the years of treating me like I didn't matter, or how they always put my sister first. Nope, none of that. It was all about how I was the bad guy for not coming home and fixing things. Then she said something that really ticked me off. She called me violent and disrespectful because I slapped my sister during that fight. Now, let me be clear. My sister was the one who jumped me in the street. She tackled me, pushed me to the ground, and only stopped because my friend pulled her off. But of course, my mom conveniently ignored that part and made it sound like I just walked up and slapped her for no reason. It was classic manipulation, twisting the story to make me look like the villain. At first, I wanted to respond. I wanted to tell her everything, lay out exactly how they'd treated me, how they'd never cared about me unless it benefited them. But then I realized, what was the point? They'd never listen. Even if I told them the truth, they'd just twist it again to fit their narrative. So instead of getting sucked back into their drama, I did the smartest thing I'd done in years. I blocked them. Yep, I went ahead and blocked my mom, my dad, and my sister on everything. Phone, social media, you name it, they were gone. And just like that, I felt free, like truly free for the first time in my life. I didn't have to worry about their constant texts or guilt trips or manipulations. They couldn't reach me, and I wasn't going to waste any more time trying to reach them. Living with Grandpa was going great, by the way. He didn't push me to talk about anything unless I wanted to. He gave me space when I needed it, but he was always there when I wanted to chat. And slowly, I started feeling like I could actually build a life without my parents' crap hanging over me. School was going fine too. I had a solid group of friends, and yeah, my football player friend and I started dating. Some of you called it in the comments, and you were right. It just kind of happened naturally after everything, and he's been amazing. He's the first person who's ever made me feel truly supported, like I'm worth something. But the biggest change? I got into the college I wanted. Yep, I'm heading off in the fall, and my grandpa's paying for everything, just like he promised. I honestly can't believe how much my life has changed in just a few months. I went from feeling trapped and invisible in my own family to finally being able to live for myself. As for my parents, I haven't heard a word from them since I blocked them, and I hope it stays that way. They made their choice, and I made mine. I'm not going to waste any more time trying to fix something that was broken from the start. Grandpa and I are closer than ever now. He's the only family I really need. We've even talked about taking a trip together before I go off to college, just the two of us. It feels good to have someone in my corner for once, someone who actually gives a damn about me. So yeah, I guess this is the happy ending I never thought I'd get. It's not perfect, and I know there'll be more bumps along the way, but for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to the future. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. I'm done with that part of my life, and I'm ready to move on. And honestly, it feels pretty damn good.